Thanks for visiting our channel again. Even though Hollywood has a long history of romantic comedies, the passionate affair between Ollie McGraw and Steve McQueen is one of the most memorable. They were a captivating power couple that embodied defiance and allure, captivating the entire globe. A tear-filled love story hid beneath all the glitter and sparkle, suffering through every step of the way. The beautiful actress Ollie McGraw, who won over millions of fans with Love Story, became entangled in the passionate affair between Steve McQueen, the king of cool, a man who wore a tough exterior but carried the scars of a terrible upbringing with him. Their first glance on set of The Getaway lit Hollywood ablaze with an inconsolable fervor. Was this passionate love a lovely dream or the start of something more sinister? Embrace the real tale beneath Ollie McGraw's glossy facade, a love consumed by jealousy, control, and unhealed scars. By commenting and joining us if you appreciate her and are inquisitive about her violent relationships. How much did Ollie McGraw have to give up to satisfy her insatiable desire? After weathering the storm of her troubled marriage, did she ever emerge unscathed? Steve McQueen's and Ollie McGraw's early lives and professions. Born in 1939, Ollie McGraw possessed a resilience that had been honed through adversity. She was born into a tumultuous marriage in New York City to two creative people. Her brilliant but mentally unstable father was a painter who frequently left his family feeling empty and anxious. She was born into a family where money was tight, but her strong and courageous mother worked endlessly to provide for her two children. Bore witness to squabbling, days consumed by financial worries, and the persistent veil of insecurity that hung over her formative years. But Ollie remained unbreakable despite his troubled upbringing. It had the opposite effect, shaping her into a very ambitious and determined woman. Aside from escaping his insecurities, Ollie yearned to dominate the world. She was a very popular model after breaking into the profession with her timeless good looks. However, her real launchpad was Hollywood. Goodbye Columbus, 1969, in which she played Brenda Potemkin, was a watershed event in her career. Still, her breakthrough role came in 1970's Love Story, when she played Jenny. Ollie McGraw's picture, which was stunning, delicate, and bursting with vitality, moved people all around the world. But beneath all the glitter, there was still that hurt girl, yearning for the safety and affection she had never experienced. Steve McQueen, the idol of the world, came next, who had a horrible and gloomy childhood narrative as well. Steve felt extreme isolation and rejection from the time he was born in 1930. When Steve was a baby, his father left the family, and his mother was unable to provide him the attention he needed. Steve was sent to live with relatives by her, but the years spent in foster care and institutions hardened him even more. When McQueen was a teenager, he was already a defiant troublemaker who ended up at a reform school. After learning to rely only on himself for survival, McQueen found himself in that place. Steve McQueen discovered a way out of that challenging life. The thrill of speed and the liberation he felt while racing motorbikes across city streets captivated him. Hollywood took note of his irrepressible charisma and defiant nature. With an irresistible force, McQueen swept into the film industry. He transcended the realm of action stars with his outstanding portrayals in Bullet, The Great Escape, and The Magnificent Seven. In appearance, he was a man who feared nothing. In reality, though, he was the very definition of chill. But deep down, he was still that hurt kid, frightened of being left behind. Two ferocious fires, each with its own irreparable wound. Tragically connected individuals Ollie McGraw and Steve McQueen met amid the bright lights of Hollywood. There was a purpose to their meeting. A fresh chapter, wrought with raging passion and ominous shadows, seemed to have been written only for them by some cosmic hand. It was a dramatic and enthralling explosion as their unresolved wounds and fears met, but a potentially explosive one. Their tragic encounter while filming The Getaway. As the days of filming The Getaway dragged on in the sweltering Texas heat, fate brought Ollie McGraw and Steve McQueen together. An emotional storm was brewing, and this wasn't your average action flick. It would change their lives in ways they could never have imagined. One of the biggest performers in Hollywood back then was Ollie McGraw. Her iconic performance in Love Story elevated her to Hollywood icon status, representing both fragile love and fragile sadness. She was nervous and hesitant as she approached the retreat, She had to shed her typical image of a mild leading woman and play a tougher character for the part. Steve McQueen's presence, though, was much more terrifying. The guy whose aura of mystique, charisma, and haughtiness had long been believed to surround him. Steve McQueen was an iconic figure, known for his carefree demeanor and striking blue eyes. His unbridled enthusiasm and defiance of authority made him an irresistible figure. Famous for his legendary action performances, McQueen's charm was just as strong when he wasn't on screen. Even though he was passionate, he kept his distance from others because of the emotional wounds he carried from a rough past. He was a complicated and unpredictable man. The Getaway set was like a slow-motion explosion when they first met. The air between them became thick with tension and temptation the second their gazes connected. It was clear that Ollie and Steve had chemistry. It transcended acting in a significant way. A strong bond existed, and everyone could feel it. The on-screen explosions of passion as they played lovers on the run were not staged, but rather the product of a real connection between the actors. The risk-taking and magnetic charisma of McQueen drew Allie to him. This love story, however, was far from ordinary. Robert Evans was a major player in Allie's career as a Hollywood producer, and they were married. Their union was more than a pretty face. Years of joint success formed the foundation of their partnership. After Allie's wild childhood, Robert brought a sense of calm and stability into her life. The entrance of Steve McQueen, on the other hand, was like a tornado ripping through everything in its wake. McQueen presented an unstable lifestyle that was exciting, stressful, and ripe for explosion at any second. Steve and couldn't conceal their affections for each other on the Texas film set. Everyone watched their every look and gentle touch when it wasn't on camera. Their friendship was evident to everyone on set and in the office that they were more than just a romantic couple. Something larger, more profound, and more perilous was it. Ignoring the repercussions, Allie dove forward into this love despite public judgment. She admitted in her memoir Moving Pictures that McQueen was incredibly attractive. Stunning, yet devastating to everyone that it encounters. Steve McQueen was not the type to readily grant assurances of safety or trust. He personified a troubled spirit haunted by demons and haunted by terrible recollections of his past. Ollie was helpless in the face of his irresistible charm, despite her awareness of his danger. Their passion went much beyond a casual relationship. A violent storm was raging, full of danger and with the potential to destroy everything in its path. Ollie finally made a decision that will change his life. She gave up her previous life of ease and luxury when she broke up with Robert Evans to spend time with Steve McQueen. Hollywood was rocked to its core when word of their affair spread. All eyes were on them as their romance became the subject of sensational headlines, constant speculation, and unrelenting public scrutiny. However, beyond the surface of events, there was a love tale characterized by peril and uncertainty, a path of betrayal and self-sacrifice from which neither could ever recover. Wedlock and the terrible cost of sacrifice. Ollie MacGraw and Steve McQueen married vows in July 1973, going into a marriage that was intriguing and dangerous, beneath the bright lights of Hollywood and the admiration of the public. The two prominent Hollywood stars appeared to have achieved a fairy tale ending, at least to those on the outside looking in. The truth, however, was much more brutal, lurking beneath the public embraces and joyful smiles. No fairy tale. Ollie's marriage to Steve McQueen was a cruel game in which he had to give something up at every turn. Strict requirements were set by McQueen right from the beginning. A prenuptial agreement was something he wanted Ollie to sign, denying her any right to inherit from their marital estate. It showed how McQueen's terribly damaged childhood manifested itself in his fear and mistrust. But Ollie, utterly captivated by love, hesitated not a second. In that instant, her heart could only focus on the man she loved, and she signed the document without hesitation. However, McQueen's most significant requests did not appear on the invoice. Ollie set stifling limitations on his life and exerted control over it. As far as McQueen was concerned, she had to give up her successful acting career. The idea of other men admiring and desiring his wife was too much for him, a man who needed power and domination. Ollie, who had risen to stardom thanks to her part in Love Story, had to step away from the spotlight to become the kind of woman McQueen desired. a lady who lives in his shadow, a stay-at-home wife, and a dedicated mother. The envy felt by McQueen was out of the usual. It went into the realm of obsession. He was always worried that Ollie would run away from him, pursue happiness elsewhere, and be able to escape his grasp. He kept tabs on her and wouldn't let her meet with coworkers or go public without his explicit consent. Despite his shameless flirting and engagement with other women, his violent fury would explode at the slightest hint of her noticing another man. Ollie passively endured the double standard, feeling confined in a golden cage that was beautiful but completely free of freedom. Ollie felt stifled. She had been an ambitious and proud actor before. She hoped to follow her passions for art and create the life she imagined for herself. However, she was unable to escape their Malibu house and was instead confined to her role as McQueen's ideal wife and mother. Josh, her son from a previous marriage, was the object of her devotion as she sought to delight in the mundane tasks of everyday life. However, she was never truly alone. It bothered her, and she began to wonder if the sacrifices had been worthwhile. Quitting her job wasn't the hardest thing, though. Her pain was caused by McQueen's actions. His emotional abuse, abrupt outbursts, and harsh remarks sliced through Ollie's heart like knives. After she was having a harmless chat with another man, McQueen snapped and spent hours questioning her, trying to make her feel bad about something she hadn't done. Ollie felt as though she were dwindling away under his tyrannical thumb, like she was completely dissolving into thin air. Ironically, McQueen allowed himself every pleasure while he battled to control Ollie. He had no need to conceal his actions as he freely mixed with stunning women at wild gatherings. Justification and excuse were unnecessary for him. Steve McQueen was unyielding in his adherence to his own set of principles. A tempest of tumultuous emotions engulfed Ollie, leaving him all alone, conflicted about how much she loves McQueen and how her self-esteem is quickly declining. Her love for him persisted, and she held on to the belief that it could mend his broken spirit. Nevertheless, this optimism simply led her deeper into despair. Love, Allie came to see, could not rescue anyone. McQueen's healing would be contingent upon his will to transform, and she could no longer sustain a life devoid of purpose. All the years she lived in the shadow cast by this marriage, the hopes she gave up, and the sacrifices she made. She had lost more to all of it than she had anticipated. But that was just the beginning. After Ollie said she wanted to get back into acting and rediscover the part of herself she'd forgotten, McQueen wasn't content to merely disagree. Hurt her, he said. He made it clear that he would abandon Ollie if she went back to Hollywood. Any hope of mending fences was dashed at that point. After much internal struggle, Ollie realized that this love had no redeeming qualities. A devastating power it was. She realized then that she needed to release her grip. An agonizing lesson in love and loss pervaded their marriage from beginning to end. Ollie MacGraw had given her life for Steve McQueen because of her undying love for him. But ultimately, she came to terms with the fact that unending, one-sided love could never restore the broken hearts. The split and the compensation given. Ollie MacGraw and Steve McQueen's apparently unbreakable marriage finally crumbled in 1977, causing shockwaves to ripple through Hollywood. When Ollie and her partner broke up, it was the end of more than just a wonderful love story. It was the crumbling of a universe that Ollie had worked so hard to create. Instead of a raging inferno, the disintegration was more like a little fissure that ate away at a wall until it finally gave way. The once glimmering Ollie MacGraw was now barely a specter of her former self. She had put the guy she loved above herself and given up her profession, popularity, and even her personality to make him happy. Still, their efforts were unrecognized all through McQueen's tenure. Control, jealousy, and unhealed wounds instead encircled her. Allie did her best to stay married to McQueen despite his growing aggressive and abusive behavior for a long time. She maintained her patience and held on to the hope that he would change, even as he locked her up in the prison he had built. Despite this, Ollie MacGraw's optimism waned as McQueen's dominance and mistreatment intensified. The last straw was when she said she wanted to go acting again, to be the lady she loved being. McQueen went ballistic, threatening an imminent divorce if she resumed her work. A cruel order, an ultimatum that Allie could no longer withstand. It was more than just a threat. Her childhood had been consumed by an unsalvageable love, and now she had no choice but to release it. Allie was hit quite hard by their divorce. She had given up a life of promise after giving up everything that a queen had to offer, and now all she had left was the shattered remnants. In retrospect, the prenuptial agreement she had signed while still in a romantic fog seemed like destiny's cruelest joke. After the wedding, Allie took nothing with her. Her pride, along with her profession, reputation, and sense of self-worth, were all shattered. With all the fame, fortune, and, most tragically, honor that had hitherto been hers taken away, she re-entered society as an unrecognized lady. However, Ollie MacGraw's sacrifice was far from over. She had to deal with an inexplicable feeling of failure and crippling loneliness on her own. After risking everything on this love, her world came crashing down, leaving her with nothing but sadness and resentment. Allie seemed to sink into a nothingness in the days after her divorce. Not only had she lost the man she had loved with all her being, Steve McQueen, but she had also lost herself. A life consumed by anguish, shame, and misery. Shaming herself for allowing herself to be consumed by an unhealthy love that caused her to lose sight of her own value. Even once the center of attention, Steve McQueen was unhappy following their breakup. His health started to decline, and his careless behavior and substance abuse made matters worse. At the young age of 50, McQueen passed away in 1980 due to a terrifying form of cancer. Tragically, he left behind an immense cinematic legacy along with his life tale. Ollie was deeply saddened and pained when he heard of his death. In spite of their breakup and the pain that characterized their relationship, she loved him with an intensity that only a broken heart could comprehend. The death of McQueen put an end to any last optimism that he might change, that they could eventually be able to rest easy together in old age. Allie went into a deep depression after the divorce. She had a hard time controlling her drinking, and she would often use alcohol to numb the agony that life and love had dealt her. But after Allie hit rock bottom, she resolved she would not allow the shadows to rule her life anymore. She started a long and arduous road of rehabilitation and self-discovery when she sought therapy at the Betty Ford Clinic. It was a tough road. However, Allie MacGraw had been through the darkest times in her life. If she could make it through adoring McQueen, she could handle anything. She had to do more than just cut out booze for her rehabilitation to take hold. Getting back on her feet was the main theme. Allie eventually came to terms with her own shortcomings and learned to forgive herself for the judgments and blunders she had committed while pursuing love. Through self-love, she found her voice, something she had neglected to remember over her years of giving up everything for another. Eventually, Allie MacGraw grew out of her idealistic ways and stopped being prepared to sacrifice all for love. The lady who came out of it was one who had learnt the hard way that love can be expensive and that nothing is more valuable than her independence and self-respect. After her marriage to Steve McQueen tragically ended, Allie MacGraw had to confront deep-seated wounds on her road to recovery and a fresh start. They pierced her spirit to the core. She lost her confidence, her career, her faith in love, and her renown as a result of the marriage. Allie was determined not to be defined by the broken remnants of her once glorious existence. In order to avoid complete collapse, she had to start over, finding herself again after years of self-sacrifice and self-control. Ollie MacGraw's battle with alcohol was the initial hurdle she had to overcome on her road to recovery. During her lowest points, she used alcohol to dull the agony and distract herself from the grief of losing McQueen and their troubled love. But being drunk was only a band-aid solution, and Allie was aware that in order to escape the pit, she required a permanent fix. She went to the Betty Ford Clinic for treatment, where she joined other women who had been there and fought to climb back up after falling from great heights. There, Allie was just a regular person attempting to heal from the long simmering emotional scars she had carried around, rather than a movie star. Getting back on your feet was no picnic. Allie had to face the hurt she had repressed for so long, find forgiveness for her failings, and, most importantly, free herself from the poisonous love she had harbored for McQueen. Her willpower and resiliency, which had gotten her through a difficult childhood, were the driving forces behind her recovery from addiction. Overcoming her alcoholism was just the beginning. Allie also discovered inner serenity, a feeling of calm that she had yearned for all those years spent in the shadow of the man she had once loved passionately. The bright lights of Hollywood were too much for Ally McGraw after she left the Betty Ford Clinic. Rather, she yearned for a life devoid of distractions, one in which she could prioritize her own needs over those of others. She uprooted her life in 1994 and relocated to Santa Fe, New Mexico, a radically different environment from the glittering and fast-paced entertainment industry in Los Angeles. Here, Ally McGraw sought solace for the soul. She was no longer Ally McGraw, the actress. Ally McGraw experienced a miraculous rebirth in Santa Fe. Finding solace in the tranquility of this place, she started over, rediscovering the timeless principles she had long since abandoned. By devoting time to self-care practices like yoga and meditation, she came to value the little things in life. Ally owes a great debt of gratitude to yoga for bringing harmony to her life and re-establishing her connection with her soul. Ally McGraw released the video Ally McGraw, Yoga Mind and Body in collaboration with yoga expert Eric Schiffman, reaching millions of Americans through yoga. She also practiced for her own well-being. The video went viral, bringing Hatha Yoga to a wider audience and demonstrating that Ally could still have an influential impact outside of Hollywood. There was more to Ally's new life than just taking care of herself. She devoted her life to fighting for animal rights and used her celebrity to bring attention to important animal care concerns. Ally was involved in a plethora of projects, including producing PSAs for PETA and penning the prologue to Paul, Prince of Katrina, a memoir detailing the rescue operations for animals during Hurricane Katrina. Animal welfare was more than a cause to Ally. It was a mission, a means of restitution for the suffering she had endured. Ally McGraw had matured from the naive young woman swept away by love to a strong, self-reliant woman as she stepped into her golden years. Through self-love, she found her voice, experiencing happiness through the simple pursuits of gardening, painting, and reconnecting with long-lost acquaintances. The 2016 stage production of Love Letters, in which she reconnected with her longtime co-star Ryan O'Neal, was a joyous occasion that brought back wonderful memories of their golden past and caused her much delight. No matter how terrible the suffering was, Ally did not feel any remorse for what had transpired. A life devoid of ease had been hers, although she refused to allow setbacks and sorrows characterize her. She turned them into opportunities for growth, and as a result, she is now a strong, peaceful woman. Love isn't cheap, but Ally McGraw knew that the key was to stay true to herself no matter what. Even though she had been through the big storms of fame and love before, she finally found peace within herself, peace that fame and fortune could never purchase. Wisdom passed down through generations. A stronger and more resilient woman than ever before, Ally McGraw emerged from years of strife and tragedy. Looking back on Ally McGraw's life, one remembers her not just as an accomplished actor, but also as a strong lady who triumphed despite immense suffering. The wounds she sustained during her marriage to Steve McQueen will never heal, but the experience also sparked a new chapter in her life. She learned the hard way from her ardent love for Steve McQueen that love alone can't save someone from the crushing realities of their history. What Ally took away from this connection was the realization that self-sacrifice is inevitable in relationships, and that sometimes the only way to save oneself is to leave. Beyond the lessons of love and sorrow taught by Ally McGraw in her films, her legacy stretches far and wide. It includes her major work in promoting understanding of mental health and animal rights. She became a symbol of recovery after publicly disclosing her battles with addiction and used her prominence to bring attention to the importance of mental health. She was also instrumental in shifting public opinion about yoga and meditation, advocating these methods as means of achieving and sustaining mental and physical well-being. Most significantly, Ally McGraw became into a fervent supporter of animal welfare. Through her celebrity status, she advocated for animal welfare causes and spent her life saving abandoned and vulnerable animals. Ally became a beacon of compassion and accountability as an advocate for Animals Asia, amplifying the voices of helpless animals. Going above and beyond was her motivation. Her empathetic and dedicated legacy would not have been complete without them. Healing is the most important thing Ally McGraw teaches the world. The fact that she was able to transform, recover, and rediscover herself at any point in life is an inspiration. There were many flaws in her life and many painful situations, but she refused to let them define her. On the contrary, she channeled her suffering into action, building a life that mattered. Resilience isn't defined by never falling down, as Ollie MacGraw demonstrated. It's about getting back up, each time smarter, more self-aware than the last. Ollie MacGraw is now in her 80s and leads a quiet, purposeful life. She cherishes each minute as she paints, meditates, and takes care of rescued dogs. She has shown her worth without the help of Hollywood. Rather, she finds contentment in the simple pleasures life has to offer. Her new existence is an example of liberation from her past, from the constraints of other people's expectations, and from self-love shackles. Through it all, Ollie has discovered a life she can truly call her own, having lived, loved, tripped, and healed. Have you come to the conclusion, after listening to Ollie MacGraw's love story, that the capacity to love oneself and live the life one truly desires is more important than celebrity or love? Post a comment stating, "Yes, Ollie MacGraw," if you share this sentiment and can relate to the hardships Ollie MacGraw went through. Post a remark reading, "Yes, Steve McQueen," and jump in on the discussion if you agree with Steve McQueen's take on their connection. Ollie MacGraw and Steve McQueen were a strong couple in Hollywood, and your presence here has been greatly appreciated. Make sure you don't miss any of our future videos by subscribing to our channel if you're interested in fascinating and original biographies of famous people and Hollywood stars. Looking forward to watching your upcoming videos.